Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. How has Ole Gunnar Solskjaer turned Manchester United from a side that was losing at home to Burnley badly, that was playing counter-attacking football, that was losing to the likes of Newcastle, Bournemouth, Watford and many others? How was Ole Gunnar Solskjaer on the verge of the sack, and how is he now on the verge of something very special? We'll be having a look at that and looking at how he's done it, why it's happened, and what Manchester United may have learned from the past, but may not have learned from their past as well. But ultimately, what has Solskjaer done to turn things around? We'll also be looking at why Timo Werner may have turned down United and Liverpool for Chelsea. He's come out with some comments there. Other things around Bruno Fernandez and how important he's been into the club, and all the topical stuff around loan extensions, etc., etc. But look, I want to get into this because look, I'm as a Manchester United fan, I'm really happy at the moment, and I'm really happy to see more and more of a United fan base actually united than I've seen in probably 6 years. It's nice. It's good to know. Look, I think it's going to take time to heal some of these divisions, definitely. I still think the Pogba division is still there to be resolved, but looks like it's getting better. The same with Martial and hopefully with other things as well. But with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whether you were Ole in, Ole out, or Ole I didn't know, it's been a really weird time over the last, I would say, since the start of season to now. The contrast of where we were at Christmas to now, but maybe where we were in the autumn as well, the football we were playing then. How has Ole Gunnar Solskjaer turned this around? And what does that mean for Manchester United and Solskjaer in the future? Because look, you know what? I listened to the Flex and Rant show today. They were talking about whether United can win a title, and some people messaged me and said, could you answer that point? What do you think about United winning a title? Which, look, you know, if it matters to anybody, I can tell you what I think about that. I certainly look at who the favourites are to win the title. Man City, followed by Liverpool and United, are like 16-1, which is long outsiders. Maybe that's about right. But first of all, I want to talk about Solskjaer. I hope many of you will get in the comments as well and in the live comments and let us know what you think. But for me, there are factors what Solskjaer has done at this club. I think it was Simon Stone or one of the credible journalists was talking on Twitter last night or this morning about how Solskjaer's decisions to jettison Lukaku and Sanchez have now been proven right. And I think that you've got to be very careful when you say Ole's been proven right, Matic has been proven right, because you then totally dismiss the bad times. And I think those players that Matic and Ole learned from the bad times. They weren't. It's like, I think some people want to say, "Oh, sit down, haters, you were wrong." I don't think that's right. I don't think that's right, and I don't think even Solskjaer or Matic would say that was right. They've not proven people wrong. They've just been given the time to prove themselves again. And I think with Matic, most people who watch United play would know in 2019 he was very, very poor. And anybody who's watched him for the last 6 months in 2020 would say he's been probably as good as he's ever been in his career. A renaissance, absolutely class. And the same with Solskjaer. I think when he first came in for those first few months, it was fantastic. Then he got the job and he's been struggling ever since until a certain point happened, which I'll talk about in a minute. And now, it's tiny steps, but it's definitely steps in the right direction. They're massive steps, actually, because they're not just wins. They're winning the United way. And, you know, the United way is a bit like the Holy Grail. Some people say, I've even had United fans say to me, why are you going on about the United way? What is the United way? And I'm like, well, if you don't know what the United way is, you probably should have a look at what this club stands for. But certainly there is a certain type of fan, and I would say a large percentage of our fan base fit into this. They know what the United way is, and we haven't been the United way since Sir Alex Ferguson left. And I think in these recent games with Solskjaer, we've seen that. But how has he done this? And for me, there's a 4-point plan to this. I think the first thing he's done, in his own words, is jettison or remove the club of the bad apples. And I don't think he gets enough credit for this. But if you think about the first month he came into the club, Mr. Favourite, Mr. Mourinho's, foster son or whatever, was kicked out of the club. And I say kicked out of the club because it surprised me how quickly it happened. But literally within a few weeks of Ole coming in, Fellaini was gone. How did Ole know to do that? Did he just know that? I think he did. I think Solskjaer's a fan like me and like many of you lot who, when he was watching United, just was like, nah, I don't care what Fellaini does. I don't care about how hard he works. I don't care how many goals he scores. I don't care what fan following he has. He ain't a United player, and he's never going to be a United player for me. And he did that as an interim manager. And I'm sure he had people in his ear, and I suspect those people may have been a Michael Carrick or a Mike Phelan or somebody. But he came straight away and he got rid of Fellaini. And that, to me, showed that there was a ruthless streak to Solskjaer, because I don't think that's in question. Then the following summer, you've seen Sanchez moved out on loan. Whether that was wanted or not, we did see that. Alexis Sanchez as well. And when I say bad apples, I'm not saying Fellaini or Lukaku or Sanchez were like toxic people or anything like that. A bad apple can just be somebody that just doesn't fit in with what you're looking to build. So I think that was always something that Solskjaer did very well in the time that he was here. The second thing, and I'm going to get it in very early, is, and I will argue this with anybody, if anybody said to me, could you describe why Manchester United are now heading places and they weren't before, and why... And should fans have just been more patient with Ollie at the start? I actually don't think so. I don't think so, because for me, there's one thing that's turned this all around, and it's Bruno. It is. Some people won't want to accept it, but it is. And there's nothing wrong with accepting it. Bruno Fernandez is the reason Manchester United and are prospering, and the reason Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is in a job. I'll tell you now, there is another element to bring into this, but I'll tell you now, when we lost that Burnley game, I said it, many people said it, people were booing and shouting all sorts of stuff at Old Trafford. The fan base was unhappy. Now, I'm not saying people were chanting Ollie out, I don't think they were doing that in the ground, but they were very unhappy. And we were at the lowest point there, and I don't forget these things, because I think if you learn from the bad times, the good times will be even better. And I think the club... at that point in January was as low as it's probably been since Sir Alex Ferguson left. We were bad on the pitch, we were not exciting on the pitch, and there wasn't a lot of faith in what was going on off the pitch. And after that Burnley game, I said I can't see how Solskjaer can survive. The results are terrible. He looks like he's out of his depth. That we're playing badly. Teams like Burnley are coming to Old Trafford and deserving to win. That was the thing. How do you come back from this? And then they brought Bruno Fernandez in, and the whole thing changed. The team suddenly had a focal point. Everybody responded to that focal point, and we've never looked back since. Pogba's responded to it now. Rashford's back in the team. But I'll tell you what, this was not going to turn around without Bruno Fernandez. And I applaud Ole Gunnar Solskjaer for that. Of course I do. Look, I'd been on about Bruno Fernandez for about 18 months before we signed him. Many of you were on about him last summer and before that. I knew he was right. I don't know why, I just knew he was right. And I think Solskjaer knew he was right as well. And for whatever reason, the club did not deliver Solskjaer that player last summer. And then for whatever reason, they did it in January. And it was probably injuries to Pogba and McTominay that allowed Bruno to come in. But Bruno is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's potential Mark Robins, Sir Alex Ferguson. We were in the third round of the FA Cup. There was rumours that Sir Alex Ferguson was going to get sacked. Whether he was or not, look. Some people say he wasn't, but we were playing very, very badly. Mark Robins scored a goal in the third round of the FA Cup. United went on to win the FA Cup. Mark Robins' moment, they call it, for Sir Alex. And I think Bruno Fernandez is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's moment. He is, I'll argue with anybody, he is the player that has turned it around. But look, he's one player. He's not Messi, he's not Ronaldo, but it's the piece in the jigsaw that he needed. He needed that piece to bring everything together. We didn't have a number 10. He was trying Lingard, he was trying Pereira, he was trying Mata. He was trying everything he had. And look, maybe Gomez could have been given a role, but at the end of the day, that's a massive risk to chuck him in. He gets hold of Bruno Fernandez and everything changes, and now everything looks good. And one player has made Ole Gunnar Solskjaer look a good manager. One player has taken a team that was massively, massively underperforming, playing poor football and bad results, has turned us into a good team. But this is not a surprise. I don't know why. I can imagine people are going, oh, that's just nonsense. It's not nonsense, because we've done it before. We did it with Cantona. Sir Alex Ferguson did it with Cantona. We didn't win the title. We blew it. He brings Cantona in. We go and win titles. He was the missing piece. There was fantastic players around Cantona. The Roy Keanes, the Paul Inces at the time, the Kanchelskis, the Hughes, Steve Bruce, Ryan Giggs was coming through, Schmeichel was in goal. But Cantona... And I'm not likening Cantona to Bruno because they're very different. But it is, I've gone from Mark Robins to now Cantona, but it does have that feel about it. It's that thing that suddenly taking the team, and it's a team thing. You know, it's not all about Bruno. It's a team thing, but it's improved us massively. And I think another element of what Solskjaer is lucky. He's a lucky manager, not through anything of himself. He doesn't walk around with, you know, a rabbit's foot in his pocket or anything like that. He's lucky because he's the fourth. He's lucky because he's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Because I think if he'd come into this club after Sir Alex, he'd have been gone by that Burnley game. I think they would have sacked him. But I think Woodward and co couldn't sack another manager and didn't want to sack a United legend. So I think they went that extra bit in January where they maybe didn't do that with Van Gaal, and they maybe didn't do it with Mourinho, and they certainly didn't do it with Moyes. And maybe, look, his points total was terrible. His record was terrible after that Burnley game. And look, if he'd been sacked, it would have been very saddening, but a lot of people would have said it was the right decision. The club never did it, and they never wanted to do it for many different reasons. And that faith has been repaid. And I don't think United's faith was about, we believe this is the right man. I don't think United's board really knows much about football, if I'm absolutely honest. In that sense, I don't think they could look at the way we were playing and go, no, I can see something going on here, because they haven't got that level of football knowledge. But that faith, because they had to be faithful, and they knew that the fans were going to... Look, basically, they knew if they sacked Ollie, it was going to get a lot worse on the terraces. They were already getting people around their house and stuff. So they stuck with Ollie, they brought Bruno in, and that has now allowed Manchester United to go to a level that, you know, many of us always wanted Solskjaer to do. And that, I think, is how Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is improving Manchester United. The time that he was given, Bruno Fernandez being brought in, and now he's got players who he trusts to play the way he wants to play. I think we got stuck in a muddle in the autumn where Ollie was like, God, I've lost Pogba, I didn't expect that. I've lost Martial for a bit of it, you know, and I've got no creativity. I've got no number 10. And I think he was like, you know what? I'm going to have to play this like 5 at the back, counter-attacking football. But Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows the United way. He does know the United way. And I think that is why the moment Bruno's come in, we've prospered, because we're actually seeing it. And if you look at Solskjaer's previous career at Mulder, and I know it's Mulder, but the way he wants to play football was never that. And that was always one of my big frustrations as well, is that I was like, when is he going to start playing like he did in the first 3 months? That was entertaining. When is he going to start playing the way that we know Solskjaer wants to play? Why are we playing this defensive football? And I think everything fell into place with that Bruno thing. So when people say to me, oh, Ollie's proved everybody wrong, I don't think he's proved anybody wrong. I think what's happened is it was a bloody mess until we brought Bruno in the club, and he couldn't do what he needed to do. And now Bruno's in, we're seeing what Manchester United could be under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. And it is, of course, it's the first step, so I appreciate that. But it is starting to look good, and I think that his way mentality was always there as well. I think this is something that Solskjaer probably doesn't get the credit for. You know, Bruno's been the spark for the fire, definitely. And the faith from the club was going to be there for the reasons I've said. And the ruthlessness about getting rid of people like Fellaini and Sanchez and Lukaku. But also, what's always been very clear for Solskjaer, even when we were losing games, even you go back to the Everton game a year ago in April, when he said these players won't be here, you know that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer behind the scenes knows what he wants. He wants what you want, he wants what I want. He wants United to be the best club in England, and he wants us to play the United way. And that is something that, if we can start playing like that, like we have done in the last couple of games, and we continue to do it, that's very, very encouraging, because for me, it's never been in doubt that Solskjaer wants to play a certain way, and it's never been in doubt that he knows. This is so important as well. I'm glad I've sort of moved on to this. Mourinho, Van Gaal, David Moyes. Do they know Manchester United? No. Do they know the United way? No. Are they indoctrinated in what Manchester United Football Club is? No. Can they ever relate to that? No. It's a bit like the difference between the class of 92 and Robin van Persie. You know, Robin van Persie can be a great Manchester United player, but he can't know the club like the class of 92 did, because they've worked through it. And that's very much like what it's like for the fans. You know, probably in the modern day some people do it, but you love this club, you support this club, and you go through everything with this club. And Mourinho can come in and say, I'm going to make you great, and you can like it and you can love it, but you'll never be ingrained in the Mourinho era, because it just doesn't feel like it did under Sir Alex Ferguson, and because he was here for so long. But with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, whether he was going to succeed or not, the reason we wanted him to succeed is because he's our Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. He's the legend who scored the goals, and he's the player that spent most of his career here. And he's a player and a man who knows what this club's all about. And if you could pick the perfect person to be successful as our manager for the next 10, 20 years again, you're going to pick somebody who you know, when you're doing badly, feels it as much as you do. And that was never in doubt for me with Solskjaer. It was never in doubt that he felt it like us. The doubt was whether he was good enough to be the manager. Because as I've said before, you could be the managers of Manchester United. You care, you bleed Manchester United, but are you good enough to manage? Probably not. That was the worry with Solskjaer. He knows what United's all about. In the dressing room, he can regale of what United's all about. He can tell everyone what United's about. He can demand what United's all about. But can he coach a team to be like that? And that's what's encouraging with United. So how has Solskjaer turned this around? I think a little bit of luck. And even Sir Alex Ferguson had a little bit of luck. I think Bruno Fernandez is massive. And I applaud Solskjaer for actually asking and wanting to get that player. And the club finally did get it for him. And that's been the spark. I think he's a ruthless manager in relation to that, removing Fellaini and Lukaku and people like that. And trying to remove the deadwood. And I think we'll see more of that. And also I think him as a person, his mentality of what he wants is the United way. So, looking back on it, that Burnley thing was low and he could have been sacked. He really could have been sacked. But it just shows you how, even though things were bad, and even though we're still actually technically on course for our worst ever Premier League point total, but I think we'll go past it fine. Even though things were bad, it shows you how close we actually were. It's almost, Bruno's signing has also almost been a flick of a switch. You lose to Burnley, you're having your worst season ever. You bring Bruno Fernandez in, and then suddenly everything lights up. And perseverance is very important, and I'm very excited about where we can go with it. I don't know what your thoughts are. Get your thoughts in the comments below about how you think Solskjaer's turned this around and what you think the moments are, because I'd be interested to read that. And the next thing I want to talk about before the topical stuff is how can Manchester United win the title? This is a question that people have asked me. I think in relation to Manchester United, it's quite interesting because since Bruno's come into the club, we're second in the league for points. From the game that Bruno came into now, if you count all the games that everyone's played equally, we're second in the league by Liverpool by a point, and Wolves are joint second with us. I mean, look, to be fair, Arsenal and Chelsea aren't far off, but it just shows you the points accumulation over the last few weeks have been, since Bruno's come in, are very, very good. Can we win a title? Mate, if we win the title next year, look, even thinking about the title just makes me ridiculously excited, even though I've seen us win loads. I've seen us win the treble. I've seen us win the Champions League a couple of times. I've seen us win the league numerous times. I've seen us win lots of things. But if we win the title after a few years without it, it'll probably be one of the best. It probably will be one of the best, because I was very young when I know we hadn't won the title for decades, but I was very young when United won their first title, and I didn't really get what it was all about. This gap without a title this time, and look, God forbid we ever go 10, 20, 30 years like some, but it would be amazing to do it. And I'd love to say we can win it next year. And look, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I'd be very surprised if we win the title next year, because I think beyond that 11 that we've got at the moment, I worry about the drop-off. And, over a season, you will get injuries, you will get suspensions, you will get loss of form. And beyond that 11, I just don't see how you can win enough games to win the title, because you won't be able to pick that 11 every week. So I don't think we can win a title, but we could, and we might in the next 2 or 3 years if we actually start buying the players to build the squad that we need. You've got to be able to say Pogba come off and Grealish come on. You've got to be able to say Martial come off and Greenwood come on and have Sancho on the right wing or whatever. You've got to have those sort of options, and I think that is what holds us back at the moment. But I said it during lockdown. I think that you've got to deal with this thing stages. As I said, what we were talking about a couple of minutes ago, it wasn't that long ago. It was this year. It was January that we lost to Burnley. And it was that point where I thought Ollie was going to get the sack. I thought he can't do this. And then you bring Bruno in and things change very quickly. And things can change very quickly the other way. What we're doing at the moment is great, but what if we get a man sent off and we lose to Bournemouth at the weekend? It all comes crashing down again. And at some point we will lose a game, and how we react to that will be very important, because I think we're going to go on a really good winning run. I do. But at some point you will lose, and how do you react to that? Because that's always been United's problem as well. But for me, as I said in lockdown, it was about coming back, winning all our games, getting top 4, maybe winning the Europa League, and then taking that form into next season, and then in the transfer window before the new season, buying some players to make us better. We can only do those things. If we can win every game between now and the end of the season, that's a run of about 8 wins in a row. Take it into next season, it's a 38-game season. How many of them can you win in a row? So I don't think we can win the title next year, but I'd like to say we're going to deliver some blows to Liverpool next year and Man City. Well, we beat Man City twice this year, but Liverpool next year, I want to start taking some points off them, and then let's see what happens with it. I mean, I don't think it's unrealistic to say that if things carry on the way they are, we could win the title the season after next. But we'd have to buy well, and we'd have to keep the players that we've got and keep improving. So that's how I feel about that. But I've never been this positive. I've never been this positive about United. And this is all I've ever wanted. It's all I've ever wanted. And look, quite rightly, some people have said, oh, you're quite negative and you moan. But I've never been a negative person and a moaner when we're doing well. And I know that sounds spoiled, but is that not what we are? There's always that thing around United, arrogant because we're better. So of course we're spoiled. Sir Alex Ferguson, I grew up as a young kid watching Manchester United, Sir Alex Ferguson, all the way through my teens into manhood. I was spoiled. I grew up being spoiled. So of course I'm a spoiled fan. So when I'm moaning and ranting about us not performing and losing to Burnleys and Newcastles and playing shit football, I stand by that now. If that happens next season, I'm not going to sit here and go, well, it might change round again. I'll get frustrated again. This is where United need to be, and I'm sure Ole Gunnar Solskjaer knows that as well. But now that we are here, there's not a lot to complain about, and I love it. I want to be positive. I want it to continue. I want this every week. I want to win every week. And I want to be smug and happy and arrogant every week. And I'm hoping that we can start to build that. But look, of course, it's going to be a roller coaster. That's what we've had. And you know what? In 6 months, we might be looking back on this saying, look at how idiotic we were, thinking we were going to turn it around. Consistency is always going to be this thing. And I said after Ole Gunnar Solskjaer came into the club and we won for 3 months that we'd have to go and do it for 6 months next time, because I won't ever trust them to just do it for 3 months and not fall away again. We've got to be very consistent for a longer period of time this time. So we'll see what happens. Anyway, on to some topical stuff. Timo Werner's come out and said that Chelsea was the right offer for him. He said that there were some big clubs in for him, but he felt that Chelsea was the right offer for him. It wasn't about money either. It was about the project. This has led to some people saying, well, he snubbed Liverpool and United. No way. No way, no way. If you follow Timo Werner like I have and you listen to the things that he said publicly over the last 2 years, and certainly what he said in March, I think if Liverpool had wanted him, he would have gone there, and I think if United had wanted him, he would have gone there. It's very obvious that for whatever reason, I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer even met Werner in February, that was the rumour, but for whatever reason, United decided not to go in for him, and I think a lot of that was to do with money. I don't think we even went in for him. I certainly don't think Liverpool went in for him, because if they did, they would have got him. And again, I think it's because Liverpool didn't feel that they had the money to spend that. United have done the same, but I think United have done it for a different reason. I think United have done it because they want Sancho and they didn't feel that they could afford Werner as well. So I think Chelsea was the best option for him beyond United and Liverpool, and that's not dismissing Chelsea. I think they swooped in and they did the deal there, and I thought Werner was going to Liverpool. So he's a fantastic player, and I wish United had got him. And fair play to Chelsea, but I don't think he turned United or Liverpool down. I really don't. Smalling and Sanchez are going to stay at Roma and Inter till the end of the Italian season, which is the first week of August. So Sanchez will not be able to play in the Europa League, which is quite interesting from United. Does that mean Sanchez would come back and play for us in the Europa League? I don't think so, unless we had an injury crisis. I don't think he can anyway, because it's part of the same season, isn't it? So it seems a little bit odd why we do that, but you know what? United, if it annoys Sanchez, that's probably not a bad thing. We need to get him out of the club, and I'm sure United have got, going back to, I think Ollie's ruthless. I think he will get rid of him. I don't think he will see a future for Sanchez. I certainly don't want that nightmare scenario of we don't sign Sancho because we've got Sanchez coming back. That would we're not winning the league if that happens. Also, what else did I want to talk about? Well, obviously today is the day that Angel Gomez will have left Manchester United. I think it is what it is. I think I was a bit frustrated about it on Monday when I heard, but time's a great healer, isn't it? And you just have to move on. And I think the result yesterday helps with that. And it just goes back to what I was saying before. Look, if Gomez is gone, that prospect is gone. But it doesn't change the fact that Lingard, Pereira, and Mata are not our future. So, I hope that we learn from that, and I hope that we learn that giving those types of players loads of chances over some young players maybe isn't the way forward. But ultimately, you know, what you're supposed to do. I think United are heading in the right direction, though. And I think there's always going to be mistakes. Sir Alex Ferguson let Pogba go. You know, that for whatever reason, we didn't make Pogba happy enough to want him to stay. And then we had to spend £90 million to bring him back. And that was under Sir Alex Ferguson, who's the greatest sports manager there's ever been. Everyone's going to make a mistake. Gomez could well be a mistake. But Ollie himself said, look, you know, if he goes, I wish him all the best and I'll keep an eye on his career. You know, it will be a mistake if he goes on and does fantastically well, but he might not go on and do fantastically well, and then it would be the right thing that he didn't, although we wanted to keep him. So, I don't know. I just think we're onto a good thing at the moment with Manchester United, and I think that we should keep trying to embrace that, because they will fall, and then the criticism will come back. Of course it will, because that's Manchester United. It's an entertainment business. There is nothing wrong with being critical of things when they're not going well and they're not doing well and they're not doing what they should be doing in the shirt. But I think it works both ways. When things are going well, I don't really understand the criticism, and I don't really see the criticism at the moment. I think we're doing fantastically well. Anyway, get in the comments, let me know what you think. We'll be back live tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. and I hope when you're watching this, Leicester and Chelsea will have dropped points as well, because then it just makes the week even better. Thanks for watching. Smash a like on the video and subscribe if you are new.